All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Lawyered Up. I am your host, Jared Moore, and for the record, I am not a lawyer. If you've seen the program before, you know the drill. If you're new to the program, you've never seen us before, if you have a question, pop it into the chat. I will try to answer it as best I can. But I'm not a lawyer, as I said before, so it's not legal advice or anything like that. I'm just an average Joe, just like you guys. Today, we're going to be talking about the second status reports in the Grayson Kennedy case dropped today on the Supreme Court's website, the Mvskoke Creek Nation Supreme Court. We're just going to take a look at them in a nutshell. There is a link to the news story on our website that was posted today, and in that news story there are hyperlinks. I'll just show you really quick to everything that I'm going to be talking about. So if you scroll down here, and if you want to just read this, you can. It's going to be basically what I'm talking about today. There is a link to all of the orders and everything, hyperlinks in here, these red text. Also, I wanted to point out while I'm here, we got a new thing on our website. There's this button here that says listen. If you click that, it will play like a robot voice reading the story to you. If you don't want to read, if you can't read it on your phone for whatever reason, you can just press that and it will read it to you. Okay, so if you guys have been watching the news, you might have seen, or if you've been watching the Creek Nation's website, you might have seen that on April 20th, Chief issued an executive order 26-02. That's the first thing I'm going to talk about because that is also referenced in Chief's status report that he turned in to the MCN Supreme Court. So let's take a look at that first. Okay, Executive Order 26-02. This basically, as it says here, establishes the Mvskoke Citizenship Integrity Protection Commission. So what this commission is saying, and I'm not going to read it. If you guys want to read it, you can go ahead and read it. I'm just going to give it to you in a nutshell. This is Chief picks all of the people on this commission, and he is the chairperson of the commission. And then the executive order talks about he's going to try to pick people, citizens and concerned parties from these subject areas: law enforcement, public safety, Indian child welfare, social services, business, commerce, and so on and so forth. There's a long list here. And basically what this executive order is saying, and I believe that it references if you guys remember from an earlier live stream, I talked about the Government Accountability Office's report that they prepared for the Senate on the Freedmen issue. And one of the things that report did was it gave ballpark estimates for a range of the amount of possible freedmen descendant citizens in each of the tribes, right? And so in Chief's executive order here, he's saying that because there's that report estimates between 43,000 and 117,000 possible freedmen descendants that could file for citizenship, he's saying that this could affect how our services are conducted and our budgeting and all of those type of things. So that's his motivation for filing this commission, outside of the fact that the Supreme Court is ordering him to deliver a report on what he's doing. I do want to also mention here, let me scroll down a little bit. Let me pop this up because there's a section here at the start of the executive order. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's in his report to the Supreme Court. Let me go to that. Now this stuff is all linked in the news story, like I said, but I'm going to go to the Creek Nation's, because it's also on this Creek Supreme Court's website. And it's just a little bit easier for me to navigate on there instead of clicking a bunch of hyperlinks. So again, you guys, let me pop that up. This is the Supreme Court's website. You guys have been there before. You can scroll down to the Grayson Kennedy case here, and we're going to scroll down and see that we've got some stuff that's been filed here. One is the Appellate Citizenship Board of Mvskoke Creek Nation's second status report. The next one is non-party principal Chief David Hill's objection and response. And then another one is appellant's report to order directing appellant to submit second status report. So there's basically 3 reports here. And I've already gone through them, so I'm going to kind of do them in the order that I think that would be good to talk about. The first one being this bottom one, appellant's report to order directing appellant to submit second status report. So this, hold on, there's some stuff in the chat here. Yes. Abilove is asking, do you think the executive order supersedes the Creek Supreme Court order? Let me come back really quick before I go into this. I don't think that it supersedes it at all. I think it's a sign that Chief is trying to do what he's been ordered to do, and he believes that there needs to be more community engagement in it. Let me see if there's anything else in the council. Jimmy Mack is asking, does the council's vote of no confidence and push for removal of 5 justices hamper the process for Friedman? Well, so, and if you guys aren't familiar, the council passed, I believe it was an NCA. I don't think it was a tribal resolution, but they passed a vote of no confidence on basically all of the seated Supreme Court justices involved in this decision. Does it affect the decision at all? No. The only way the decision could be affected, let's say that in the future, an entirely new Supreme Court is seated, and there is another case that makes its way through the district court to the Supreme Court, and that case gave the Supreme Court an opportunity to overturn their previous decision. If you want to look at a paradigm for it, what happened with Roe versus Wade at the United States Supreme Court decision. But that's a process that would take a long time in a consolidated political movement to make that happen, as we saw with Roe versus Wade. Let me see here. OTEC88 says, why is it so secretive, not open to the public, and documents are not open to the public either? Well, I'm going to touch on that stuff. I'm going to go through the executive order in just a second. The first thing I want to, sorry, and if I get lost on that, guys, remind me of that, because that is an important point there. Before we get to Chief's status report, though, and his executive order, I wanted to talk about the AG's report. So this first report is from the Attorney General's office, and it basically is just saying that from the Attorney General's office, what they have done is on October 16th, you can see here, they provided proposed code changes to Title VII to the Citizenship Board, right? And then on this filing, you can see that there is an attachment that is what they proposed. So this attachment is the changes to the code that the AG's office thought needed to happen in order for the Supreme Court's order to be enforced. One of the things that's in here, you'll see, and I just mentioned it briefly, is, just one second, I'm scrolling down here to find it. This done role. They added this done role in here, okay? So, and this is some other role. I'm not really familiar with it myself. When we get to the Citizenship Board's status report, one of the things that the Citizenship Board says is that they made some changes to the recommendations that the AG's office gave them, and one of them is to remove the done role and some of these other qualifications that the AG had put in there, because the Citizenship Board's opinion was that that's unnecessary. Okay. The other thing that's in the AG's status report is the AG's office saying we don't have any control over the executive branch or the legislative branch when it comes to assigning a legislator to bring the changes to the code to the council, right? So they're just saying, hey, we submitted what we thought needed to be changed, and that's basically all we can do because we're the AG's office. Okay. So let me go back here. That takes care of the AG's office. Now let's take a look at Chief Hill's objection and response. That's how he categorizes what he's posted. or what he sent to the Supreme Court, and I'll explain why he's phrasing it that way. And then we'll also kind of go over the executive order and talk about some of these issues that are in the chat here, because some of you guys have already read that part. Okay, so this is what Chief has filed, non-party Principal Chief David Hill's objection and response. So what is that? What is going on? So Chief has a little preamble here where he says that since he is not a party to this case, and he also did not file a waiver of sovereign immunity, in his opinion, he doesn't have to follow the order that the Creek Supreme Court has given in this case, right? Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't seen that before, and it is, we had a discussion last time about constitutional crisis. Now, Chief has this general objection in here, and he says those things, but then he goes on to say, I did issue this executive order, and so on and so forth, trying to comply with what the Supreme Court's ordered. So I don't know why that little preamble part is in there saying, I don't have to do what you're telling me to do, but I'm doing something anyway. Okay. This Chief's status report goes through and lists the stuff that's already happened. And then he mentions that he has issued Executive Order 2602. Where is that? Yes. As a result, on April 20th, 2026, Chief Hill issued Executive Order 26-02, so on and so forth, based on partly on recent filings by respondents and this GOA report that I mentioned earlier. And then also Chief mentions that the Citizenship Board, Chief Hill is aware that the Citizenship Board has submitted to the Speaker of the National Council proposed code amendments to Title VII. However, the board did not obtain concurrence from Chief Hill of those proposed amendments prior to submitting to the proposal to the Speaker. Chief Hill is not aware if the board has obtained a sponsor for this legislation. To me, that sounds kind of like he's leaving the door open for a veto. And then he has his submitted copy along with his report of the executive order. I'm going to read from that. We also have a link. Let me show you guys. If you go to our news story, we have a link to the executive order here that is what's posted to the web on the Creek Nation's website. So they're both the same. I'm just going to go with the one that's been submitted to the Supreme Court because it adds a layer to things. So here, Section 1, he's giving the purpose of why he's filing this executive order, and it goes through those details as I spoke earlier. By this executive order, I established Mvskoke Citizenship Integrity Protection Commission, consisting of nation departments, executive leaders, and Mvskoke Intasegaya, I believe is how you pronounce that. I'm not familiar with that word. I don't myself know what that word means, but I think it might have something to do with names or citizenship. Anyway, but I don't want to vouch for it. I haven't been able to find it in the online Mvskoke dictionary. So, with expertise and knowledge of various subjects, areas of concern that may impact the health, safety, welfare, finances, and political integrity of the nation. And then he lists all of the different areas. As Principal Chief, I will make all appointments to the Commission, in addition to including the commissioners who are subject matter experts in areas above. 2 representatives of the nation's National Council will be invited to be included as part of the Commission. These appointed positions to the Commission are unpaid, volunteer positions, and shall not be considered to be part of the executive branch office. Okay? Let's remember that. Also, an oath will be taken by each commissioner or commission member confirming their understanding of the purposes and objectives of the commission, as well as their acceptance of the duties and responsibilities outlined below. That's also kind of, I don't know what the purpose of that is, but as Principal Chief, I will be the chairperson of the commission, and I will provide direction and coordinate with the commission members, including any subgroups within the commission, to fulfill the objectives of the commission. Okay, duties and responsibilities. The Commission's duties and responsibilities will focus on the process and the impact to nation resources due to the implementation of the Grayson decision. First, the Commission will undertake research, analysis, and other fact-finding activities to determine what additional executive orders, National Council legislation, or other actions need to be implemented to ensure that citizenship integrity is maintained consistent with the laws and Constitution of the nation. This will include consideration of what additional resources may be necessary to fully and effectively exercise the nation's ability to implement the order. So with a lot of this in this order, like I have a lot of questions with it that I don't know if they can be explained or not, but my question here is this language, citizenship integrity. To me, citizenship integrity is like the list of citizens or something. You know, like what is citizenship integrity, and what about this process of giving citizenship cards to freedmen descendants is going to affect the integrity of that? Is the first question I would say. Let me pop back up here. Sorry, I just want to interject there. Second, the Commission will engage with nation communities and work in harmony with these communities or report its findings back to my office, so on and so forth. And then it goes through the list. A lot of the various people and things in the community's chief thinks should be engaged in this. There is here, the Commission should also engage in immediate government-to-government discussions with the nation's federal partners, including but not limited to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Health Service, to determine appropriate amendments that may be needed for any existing and future funding, compacts, or contracts. Okay, so I have a question about that. Earlier in the executive order, Chief specifically states that this commission is not part of the executive branch, and he doesn't say what part of the government it is. And my question is if they're specifically not part of the executive branch, I don't know, how can this commission conduct government-to-government relations if we don't know what part of the government they're in, what part of the government they are? Anyway, but maybe I'm misunderstanding. So I'm going to keep going. The Commission shall perform the work outlined in this executive order and provide a preliminary written report back to my office within 60 days from the date the Commission members are established, and a final report shall be presented back to my office no later than 6 months after the Commission's first meeting. The Commission shall terminate in 1 year from the date of this executive order unless modified by subsequent order of the Principal Chief. Now I'm going to skip down here and read some of this. This is the part that is pointed out here in the chat. Meetings of the Commission will not be open to the public, and all records, documents, and information collected by the Commission as part of its investigative or regulatory functions shall not be subject to disclosure unless otherwise allowed by law. Okay, so here's my problem. I really don't understand. Normally, if we talk about commissions, and I'm just going to use the federal government as an example. If the federal government has a commission on something like the commission on the JFK assassination, the function of that commission is so that legislators can have a public investigation into a topic. The idea is that those representatives are saying, hey, I'm working for you. I'm trying to find out information about this. And they're trying to get the information out to everybody. Chief's commission that he has set up here is he picks the people in it. He's the chairperson of it. And there's a report that's going to be presented to him, but nobody else is allowed to see that. And my question is, why would you need a commission to do that? You know, a commission would be good if this is information you're going to publish to everyone. But if it's just for you, you could individually tell departments or people to do something and give you a report. You don't necessarily need a commission to do that. And the commission, also, he's saying they're not part of the executive branch, so how would that work on the government-to-government thing? So those are some questions I have about the executive order, some things that don't make sense, or to me anyway, and also seem to be, I don't know how this order is helping citizens or to understand this process or give input on it. Let's say that you are a person in the community who wants to be a part of this commission or give some information to this commission. You go to this commission, you give them your information to say whatever your information is. I don't think this is right because of this ceremonial grounds thing, or this is going to affect healthcare this way or whatever, right? You give them some information, and then it's just, from your perspective and all the other citizens' perspective, it's just going to disappear into a void because there's no public records, there's no documents, all of that stuff is blocked from anybody receiving it. Now, if this section was the other way around, to say what I would expect it to say would be all materials and investigations that this commission has or does is viewed or can be viewed by Creek citizens at any time or whatever, like the idea being, hey, we're trying to show citizens that we're trying to comply with the order and we're trying to show some of the problems that could happen from granting citizenship. So, but that's not what we're going to see. So if you guys are out there and you're wondering, hey, are we ever going to see anything from this commission? Probably not. I don't know how we would get it other than Chief deciding after the fact to release it, or there's a carve out here, shall not be subject to disclosure unless otherwise allowed by law. So the council could pass a law to say, we want all of the materials from this commission to be published or whatever, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's Chief's, I'm calling it a status report, but that's his response, I guess is how he classifies it. Let's go back and we will take a look at the last one for today, which is the Citizenship Board's status report. All right, let's zoom in here. And as you can see here, they say Appellate Citizenship Board of the Mvskoke Creek Nation's second status report. Okay. Now I'm going to skip down here a little bit because some of this is, well, here, we can start here. So this is the response to the first question here. The Citizenship Board has no updated information regarding the questions previously submitted by this court, except as follows. A, after no proposed legislation was forthcoming from the executive or legislative branches since December 5th, 2025, that was the deadline for the first status report, the Citizenship Board proposed its own Title VII Code amendments, which were transmitted to the Speaker of the National Council and copied to the Principal Chief on March 23rd, 2026. Okay, and then it has Exhibit 1. This is the letter from Jason Nichols, Chairman of the Citizenship Board, to Randall Hicks. And then it says Exhibit 3, so on. Those proposed amendments differ slightly from those drafted by the Attorney General's Office and the Executive Branch in two ways. 1. The amendments contained the proposed changes suggested by the Citizenship Office as previously attached to the first status report, and 2. They do not require freedmen citizenship applicants to go behind the Dawes roll to the Dunn rolls, thus keeping the standard for citizenship equal between Creek and freedmen applicants. The board's position on that issue relies on sections 11 and 21 of the Curtis Act of 1898 and the subsequent findings of the Dawes Commission per the Curtis Act resulting in the Dawes roll. So that's basically the Citizenship Board saying, we took that part out in our what we submitted to the National Council. Sorry. The Citizenship Board is unaware of any sponsor for the proposed code amendments, nor of any National Council committee assignment, nor of any alternative legislation being considered. There have been informal inquiries made to the board's counsel about the proposed amendments from attorneys for the Principal Chief and National Council. The Citizenship Board remains ready, willing, and able to enact the proposed administrative rules attached to the first status report or to draft any necessary amendments within the previously reported time frames. And then this is the next question. The Citizenship Board is unaware of any proposed legislation offered other than as stated above. The Citizenship Board has sought National Council sponsorship only by proposing the above referenced code changes and sending them directly to the Speaker's office. The National Council has the exclusive constitutional responsibility to make legislation, and so on and so forth. Let's keep going on down here. The Citizenship Board can only regard to its rulemaking authority, the board believes it can make any necessary procedural amendments, give proper notice of meetings, publish said notice in newspaper, conduct the meetings, approve the procedural amendments, publish a certified copy of the procedural amendments in the same file with the National Council Secretary and Court Clerk within 60 to 90 days of enactment of the necessary code amendments to Title VII. So they're basically saying we can do it. We are mentioned here. I want to point out that they misspelled the paper. It's Mvskoke news, not Muskoke. So you guys might want to get on that citizenship board. So they are saying, why are we mentioned? So part of what they're saying is anytime the citizenship, let me pop myself back. The reason Mvskoke News is mentioned in there, the paper, is because anytime the citizenship board changes any of its procedural amendments, they are supposed to make an announcement in the newspaper, right? That they're going to have a public meeting. And then after that, have the public meeting where they take public input, and then enact any changes that come out of that, right? Amendments, and then post the amendments in the newspaper, right? So everybody can see what it is that they're changing. Okay, that's something that they're required to do. They're responding in the status report with that because they're telling the Supreme Court, hey, we're ready to go on this deal. If the council passes it and Chief okays it, we're ready to change it. There are going to be some time delays because we got to publish these meetings and all of this stuff, but we're ready to go. That's basically what they're saying. Okay, and I think that's it here. Yes. Oh, I did want to mention that in the Citizenship Board's filing, their second status report is the copy of the code changes that they submitted to the National Council, right? So you should check that out. But as we mentioned earlier, the only significant changes between what the AG thought they should submit and what they did was the removal of some of that stuff, the done roles, etc. Okay. I think that pretty much covers it. Let me go back to my previous page here. Yes. So I'm going to encapsulate it all in a nutshell real quick for you guys because we're at 6:27 and it's about time to wrap up. Here's where we're at with this status report. On October 16th of 2025, last year, the AG's office submitted their proposed code changes to the Citizenship Board. Okay? Chief, before the deadline of the previous December deadline for the first status report, he issues his executive order saying that he's going to instruct departments to bring them any code changes and all that stuff. And then the next significant thing that happens is on March 23rd, I think that's the right date. Let me check that again. March 23rd. Yes. The Citizenship Board sent the code, the amendments that they thought they needed to the National Council and to Chief Hill, and that's been the last update. So March 23rd, the Citizenship Board sent their legislative amendments that they wanted to try to get passed to comply with the order to the National Council, and that's where we are. I do want to scroll down here. Let me show you one thing before we get out of here. And that is the emails here, because some of the emails are submitted. And we can see the last thing that they were told by the National Council, because that's where the buck is sitting right now, I believe. It's not there. That's what they sent them. Hold on, maybe it's further down. Bear with me here just a second, guys. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, so this is from Randall Hicks on Wednesday, March 25th. And it's sent to Carrie Harjo with the Citizenship Board and David Hill and so on and so forth. And it says, Carrie, my apologies. I thought I had sent you an email letting you know that I had received your email the other day. That would be the 23rd. Not sure. but I've also been having issues with my email. Anyway, I have received it and just sent to our attorney and to the AG's office for review, Mado. So that's where we are. That was literally, I think, the last thing that happened in the process. It does look like to me everybody's trying to comply with the order and do what they need to do to get the code changed to start issuing the citizenship cards. There's some troubling stuff in there, the sovereign immunity thing with Chief and everything. But Chief is saying, I'm trying to do what I think I need to do to comply with the order, even though I disagree with it, and so on and so forth. Let me take a look at the chat here and see if there's any questions. Okay, OTech88 is saying, why is it so secretive not to open to the public, and documents are not open to public either? I don't know. It shouldn't be that way, really. We should be able to see it. OTech88, the J.W. Dunn roll is a roll that was before the finals Dawes roll for freedmen in Indian Territory. Okay, great. Abelow says National Council and Chief are not wanting to comply. In my opinion, that is why Supreme Court will find them in contempt. And then Jimmy Mack says, thank you for your candor and honesty in reporting news. Hey, no problem. That's what I'm here to do, guys. I'm trying to parse through this myself just like you. And as I often tell you guys, I'm not a lawyer. The only thing I would say is that I do think, if you look at one of the previous lawyered ups where I talked about constitutional crisis and we looked at the definition and stuff, I think that everybody is trying to do the right thing. I really do. Chief, with his preamble in his executive order where he is saying, hey, I don't have to comply with the Supreme Court if I don't want to, and whether that's legally true or not, that's him and his legal counsel's opinion, right? And if they were trying to challenge this and reverse it or whatever, or stop it, right? He could easily say, hey, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to claim sovereign immunity or whatever he would legally try to do and file with the Supreme Court. And then we would have a problem because we would be in a constitutional crisis where one branch of the government is ignoring the authority of another branch of the government, okay? We're not there. It is slow and things are being delayed, but people are saying and doing stuff, and we'll see how they turn out. And I wanted to let you guys know, if you are on the reservation, there is severe weather tonight. There's severe weather on Saturday, and there's severe weather on Sunday. I believe there's also severe weather forecast for Monday. And we're going to be having a radar stream tonight going from 10 p.m. tonight, overnight. And then also on Saturday night. I'm not for sure when the severe weather's forecast to come in on Saturday night. So if you guys want to check that out, keep an eye out for it. There's a link up to the stream right now. Just jump in there. And if you guys haven't seen our radar stream before, if you want a specific area focused on, just put it in the chat. And I'll focus the radar on that so we can get done. But generally, I watch for the tornado warnings and stuff and try to zoom in on those. Okay, it's 6:32. We got it all covered, and we're going to keep covering this. And I want to remind you, too, that May 4th is Robin Whitecloud's next court date. I'm going to be in court there to see what happens with that. So with that being said, Mado Hadum Chihichatlis.